So, good morning, everybody. And I am here in person today. We did this on Tuesday, and I had to do a recording because I was out of the building at the time. As Sam said, I'm Becky Heil, and I work in the Southeast District as the consultant, and I am part of the CE team for the State Library. So, what we thought would be really important today before we launch into how to use this product is to kind of think about why we're using this and why the State Library felt it was so important for you all to have this available. So Douglas is going to talk to us a little bit later about all the tips and tricks on using Foundation Directory online. I actually got started and becoming interested in grant writing when I took a week-long seminar, if you can imagine that, up in Northeast Iowa, from the Foundation Center. The Northeast District pulled together about 40 people, and we met there for an entire week and worked with Foundation Center on grant writing. And that was really kind of the beginning of my interest in that. So I found this quote, it happened to be somebody from UNI, but I really, really like this. I think it gets at the three main points about how you need to go about getting that grant funded. So first, you need to have that good idea. It doesn't start with looking for money. It starts with that good idea. I have something I want to do for my library and my community. The second thing is you need to find the right agency to ask. Everybody has a different way that they want to spend their money. And so you need to make sure what you want is the same thing that they want. And then you need to write a great proposal. And that there will actually be a webinar coming up next week on helping you get some tips and tricks on how to write that great proposal. So the information that's on this screen comes from Giving USA. They have been gathering data on charitable giving for a lot of years now. So if you look at that top number there on the left, in 2021, Americans gave $484 billion to charity. That was an increase over 2020, which I thought was really interesting. But when you adjust that amount for inflation, it's actually really kind of flat at that point. It was only a 0.7% growth. We're going to talk next week a little bit about the different types of foundations that are out there and the places where you can go to get grants. Mostly what we're going to be talking about today is foundations. I'm sorry, the places where you can go to get grants, mostly what we're talking about today is foundations. But there are other places where donations come from, and you'll notice when you look at the chart on the right, you see religion as the #1 place charitable dollars go. They aren't typically funded by donations. So when you think about the fact, when you look at that chart, that big blue part, which you may not actually be able to see on there because it's a terrible screenshot, the bulk of charitable giving comes from individuals, not from foundations, not from bequests or corporations. It comes from individuals. And so that makes sense that that's where that money is going, is into that religion piece. When we look at the ones on the right, and again, I apologize for that terrible screenshot there, they talk about human services. They talk about arts, culture, and humanities. And then they also talk about this society benefits, money going to the public. So while religious giving is up from 2020, education giving is down, but that public and society is up, and arts and humanities is up 27%. So I think, interestingly enough, education is down, but libraries really can fit under that public, the society benefit to society one, or that arts, culture, and humanities. So I think if I was writing grants to some of the bigger organizations, I would focus on that piece instead of education. In the past, I might have suggested, writing towards the educational aspect, but it looks like now where people are giving money is a little bit different now. So you might think, after hearing that $484 billion number, that the main reason to get a grant is because you need money. That is actually the first thing on my list of reasons not to write a grant. Just because you need money is not the reason you go out to write a grant. Here's a couple more reasons. If you don't have the expertise to implement it, if it is funded, if you don't have enough time to do a good job on the proposal, there is no point in wasting your precious time and resources writing something that you know you're not going to have time to do adequately and get the grant. If the amount of funding isn't worth the effort, I think a lot of places are doing a better job of that now. Some of the community foundations, while they may not give a whole lot of money, have fairly simple application process. So that actually helps a little bit. So take a look at what you are going to need to do to get that money, and then determine if it's worth the time that you're going to spend for the amount that you're actually going to get. Obviously, make sure that you meet the requirements, whether it's you have to be 501c3, or you have to be in a certain area, or you have to have certain people on staff, certain job descriptions, those kinds of things. So make sure that you meet the requirements of the funder. Also make sure that you have the endorsement of your organization. That might mean your library board. It might mean your city. If your city has turned in a grant application to the same agency, sometimes they'll only take one from a community. So pay attention and make sure that you have the endorsement of whoever that larger organization is. If there's no need and you can't identify a need for the project or program, don't bother writing a grant for that. Or again, if there's no match with a funder out there. So why should we write a grant? Going back to that first slide, if you have a good idea, if you are so passionate about something, we really need this in our community. We need this for our library to provide this service for our community to solve this problem. That's the best reason to write a grant. Make sure you have time to develop it into a good grant proposal. Make sure you understand how that can become reality. A great idea is great, but you have to figure out, what are we going to do to make that actually work? Make sure that there's somebody out there that actually would fund something like that. And then again, make sure that you have the expertise to actually implement the project once you do it. There are a few good rules to follow, and again, we'll spend more time on this next week. When you do decide to write a grant, I have 5 rules that I have pulled from a variety of sources. The first one is know the funder. Make sure that you know everything there is to know about them. Why do they give their money away? Who are they giving it to? How big are the awards that they've given? And I know that Douglas is going to have information on where you can find some of that a little bit later today. Follow their rules. What a silly waste of time to spend hours writing this grant to have it not formatted right, and it gets tossed before they even read it. So absolutely make sure you follow the rules that they have in place for writing that grant. Do your homework. Make sure, again, you know about the funder. Make sure you know the rules, but then also, what do you need in the background? How are you going to show that you are putting together a proposal that's needed in your community? Nobody wants to spend money on something that isn't going to improve society or improve the lives of the people in your community. And then the last one that I've just added to this is have a credible organization. That means not some fly-by-night. You guys are libraries. You probably are going to have most of this, but you want to demonstrate that for them. You've been around for a long time. You have a good staff that knows how to implement this. You are supported by your city. So make sure that the funder understands that you are there and this project is going to be sustainable in the long run. And my all-time most important reason is focus on people's needs. For me, again, this is the most important rule. The grant is not for you. The library doesn't need anything. The grant is to solve a problem. We don't write a grant to get furniture. We write a grant to help people. If you look at the picture here, the first time I gave this, the person who actually got the grant to get this furniture happened to be in the room, and I didn't know it at the time. So she was really surprised to see her library up there. But basically, the grant was written because teens needed a space to hang out after school, and the library didn't really have a space for it. And so they wanted to get furniture, not for the library, but for those teens. So for me, that's sort of the biggest takeaway of all of this is we're writing the grant to solve a problem. A couple of tips for success. One that I really have heard a lot from funders: establish early contact. The minute you have that great idea and you think you want to apply to a particular foundation, talk to them. They have people who are available who will say, yeah, that's not going to work. Or maybe if you tweak it like this, it would be something we'd consider funding. Don't be afraid to call and ask them for help. Another one that I think is really important that really cemented in my brain during that week is grants are not charity. Grants are investment. So think about this from the funder's point of view. They're not just giving charity out. They are investing in your community. And I think that's really important as well. The last one that I'm going to go through here is preparing things well in advance. I know a lot of you are the same that I was, and you're writing that grant at the very last minute. And it's, I was always the one when I had to drop it off, I was getting it there at 6 minutes to midnight was when I was handing it in to the folks when we had to do it in paper form. But it didn't take me very long to actually write the grant because frequently I'd been thinking about it for years. Here's where I'm going to get the furniture from. Here's the types of things that I've talked to teens and this is what they like. So when you've been thinking about it, when you've been researching it and you have all that background information, it's really easy to just sit down and write it. When you know what that need in your community is and you can back that up with statistics, it really becomes easier to get it written. And the last thing, I did say that was the last thing, but I thought of one more. Leverage your money. People like to know that the project is backed by other funders and it's going to be sustainable for the future. So maybe you're contributing staff time. Maybe your city is kicking in an amount. Maybe you've got a community partner who is also going to be part of this grant. So they like to see that their dollars are going to be multiplied as you do it. And be persistent, but not obnoxious. And so with that, question that I get all the time, where do I find grants? So next up, you are going to hear from Douglas Moore from the Foundation Directory Online, which provides information to help libraries find the grant makers that are most likely to fund their projects. I pulled this straight off their website and it's such a clear organizational structure. I thought it was really great. Now, the reason we invited him to do this demo is because the state library is continuing to provide the Foundation Directory Online for every public library in the state. It's been put on a lot of the PLOW websites, but it might be needed to be set up before you and your patrons can use it. So if you do need help getting that, making sure that you can access this resource, contact your district consultant or your LRT. Now, I hope you guys get some really great tips on using the Foundation Directory Online, and I can't wait to see all that new money that flows into our state. I am going to stop sharing and turn it over to Douglas.
All right. Thank you. My name is Douglas Moore. I am the Customer Success Outreach Specialist here at Candid. Candid is the provider of the Foundation Directory. We are a nonprofit that serves the nonprofit sector through data and information. So we get nonprofits the information they need to do good to carry out their mission. So I am happy to walk you through, show you all the features and abilities of the Foundation Directory, which is the most comprehensive data set on grant makers and their funding activity. I'll open it up to questions at the end, so feel free to submit your questions via chat, and then I'll swing back and answer them. So, all right. So here is the homepage. This is what patrons will see once they log in. Just for review, we have a helpful YouTube channel, which covers every section of the Foundation Directory. We recently uploaded some new videos, so there's some up-to-date current videos reflecting the Foundation Directory there. And then we have a blog which just covers some tips and tricks in regards to using the Foundation Directory and fundraising. And if you're curious, we do track the overall funding data for any particular subject area and state, or you can do the entire country as we collect the data as it comes in. All right. You want to identify those potential funders. There is a natural language search. So essentially you can try to explain in English what you're looking to fund. For example, the libraries in Iowa hit search, and the natural language is going to at least try to apply relevant terms. I don't always recommend it. As you can see here, it's included higher education and elementary education for some reason. So usually just recommend jumping straight to these advanced search and filters and populating your search from here. So the main filter you will want to use is subject area. You can click the box and get a dropdown of all the searchable terms. As you can see, there's the main areas such as information and communications, which if you search would provide results for all the various subterms that are under that, which as you can see includes libraries. So if you do want to be specific about a term, you can just click that subterm. And you can always start typing a term and then apply it. And if you happen to apply more than one term, there will be a match any or match all option for you to indicate. Now, if you're curious, all these terms, they were developed and defined by ourselves using our own taxonomy, which is called the philanthropy classification system. If you're curious about this, you could always just search Candid, Foundation Directory Taxonomy, or Philanthropy Classification System. But this is where one will find all the various terms and see exactly how we define them. And yeah. So yeah, let's populate a search. Let's keep it broad. Let's do it under information and communications, which would include libraries. But yeah, moving on, there's two filters for geography, geographic focus. Whatever area you apply is going to identify those funders, those grants that specifically serve that area. And you can break it down by continent, by country, as well as geographic regions such as Midwest. Otherwise, state, county, congressional district, city, or town. But the location, whatever location you enter there, is only going to show the organizations who are located there. So both the recipients and funders who happen to be residing in that particular location. Now, there is a filter to identify those funders, those grants that serve the particular population. So all the various demographics out there, there's a number of categories, for example, social economic status, work status, health, etc. And there will be a match any or match all option as well if you apply more than one terms. I do want to note that not every grant indicates a particular population, so it's not always necessary, but obviously is very helpful when you or organizations do work with those particular populations. And these terms are also found in our taxonomy, in case you're wondering how we define them. Now there's two direct searches. Organization name, simply use this to pull up the profile of any particular org you're curious about. Start typing, there'll be a dropdown of relevant matches. You can filter whether it's a recipient profile you're looking for or a grant maker. If they have a similar name or multiple chapters, you just want to identify a particular one, you can always apply the location filter to filter out those results. Otherwise, you can just click this button directly to get to that profile. And then the other direct search is a who's who. So for the grant maker, we have identified staff members, board members, trustees, the foundation's founder. You're curious about an individual to see if they have a foundation or if they work for one, you can always do a direct search by their name and we'll pull up any grant maker they are listed under. We do have a filter to include or exclude US government funders. And then we also have these additional filters that you can apply. So here you can identify those funders, those grants of a particular support strategy or transaction type. Support strategy can be anywhere, anything from perhaps you're involved in a capital campaign, so capital and infrastructure, professional development, or just general support. And then transaction types, so not just your typical cash grants, but other types of transactions like maybe a matching grant, and if relevant, PRIs, MRIs, etc. And then you can also filter the results based on the organization type. So if you're just curious about a specific type of funder, you can apply it and just get results from them. So all the various grant makers you can select. For example, maybe you're just curious about corporate giving programs, maybe just government funders, or any particular type of foundation, like a family foundation. all the various different types of grant makers you can apply and just get particular results from them. There are filters to filter results based on grant amounts, based on years of data, which goes all the way back to 2003 up to present. And we do have a keyword search. Don't always recommend it, but it does come in handy if you're trying to identify something very specific that was not a searchable term. So the example I use is we have no specific term for coronavirus or COVID-19, but a keyword search essentially is going to pull up any profile that contains that word or words. Just want to note there's no Boolean options for this. It's just whatever you type is just going to identify exactly that. So, but more importantly, it's going to identify any grant that contains that word or words within its description. So these 98,000 grants all contain that word COVID-19 within their description. So there is a keyword search, really helpful if you're just trying to identify something very specific. Otherwise, last filter would be the EIN search, direct search by EIN in case you're having trouble searching or identifying by name. All right. So yeah, you hit search. We're going to pull up a list of relevant grant makers, grants, and recipients. We're going to list those organizations based on number of grants we have captured, while the grants themselves are going to be listed by most recent and amount. To view a list of up to 100 entries, there is a View All button that you can click, pull the list, and here is a list of those funders, in this case of information and communications in Iowa. Key thing to pay attention to is this amount funded in grant count column. This will be a direct reflection of your search criteria. So for example, the Community Foundation of Greater Des Moines, they provided over $2.2 million through 554 specific grants that fell under information and communications and served Iowa. So again, however you populate your search, amount funded grant count column is going to be a direct reflection. If we do have a notice of a request for a proposal from the funder relevant to your search criteria, we'll indicate that here. I do want to emphasize that only about 1% of grants awarded actually come through these RFP opportunities. So not something you should only focus on. You know, foundations are still required to give 5% of their assets every year. So they still need to give, they still want to give out that funding. And just because they don't have an RFP doesn't mean there is an opportunity. So just want to make note of that. But these other columns, total giving is overall grant making for all subjects for the last 990 a year. Total assets also last 990 a year. In all these columns, you can sort, as well as apply filters based on assets, total giving, as well as a helpful one, which will exclude those who have indicated they're not accepting applications. Whether it's true or not, it's something they do check on their 990. So based on that, that data point, you can filter with the filter above. And this entire list of grant makers, you can email it to yourself or anyone else. You can download as a PDF or a CSV file. The CSV file will come in handy because it'll include these columns, main columns in the background, as well as all their contact details we have for the organization. So their mailing address, telephone, fax number, website, email, if available, is going to be listed in that document, as you can see here in a moment. We have a list of all those funders, along with their contact details and those other columns. So yeah, let's check out a grant maker profile. We could just go with local community foundation. So here's the grant maker profile. The landing is going to be a visual and overview of what type of funders are providing the, what am I saying? Sorry, what type of subjects are they funding? Where do they provide the grants and the range of the grants they have provided over the years? And you can kind of, you know, break this down, dissect all this information in greater detail. So for example, if you're curious, you can see exactly where other grants were awarded. You can also zoom out in the world if you're curious about their international giving. Otherwise, in the United States, you can see exactly how many grants, how much states have gone to any particular state. You can zoom in on that state and see exactly where were those grants awarded. And you can break this down by county, by city, by zip code, congressional district. And then you can also apply a subject filter just to pinpoint those particular relevant grants from the funder. And then if you click that particular area, you're going to get a list of those specific recipients. And if you click the recipient's name, you're going to get a list of those particular grants that you received from the funder. And here's a grant detail window. Any details we have on the grant is going to be listed here. So subjects, population served, geographic area, etc., along with a description if one was provided. Otherwise, it'll say no description or just general continuing support. So yeah, you can also break down the subjects chart. So you can just see what are the main areas that they fund, and then you can just break down the various categories of that term, and then you continue on to see those specific recipients of those particular types of grants, and then again continue on to see those particular grants as well. Otherwise, all the grants we have captured from the funder is going to be listed here in the grants section. Do you want to note that your filter will be applied when you come across a profile from a search? So in this case, it's only showing their information and communication related grants in Iowa, but you can clear it, gain access to all the various grants we have captured from them over the years. We'll break down their funding interest. This is based on grant evidence. So if you see a term here, there will be at least one grant they provided that fell under that category. So it's not necessarily a direct reflection of their current funding interest. It's just a reflection of their past giving. We'll provide links to any affiliation related organizations, and then provide information on the funder, details on the organization, perhaps details on the programs they have going. Then based on similar patterns of giving, 6 similar grant makers who are populated based on similar subjects, geographic areas, and giving amounts. You can just click their name to learn more about that funder. And then here is what one will need to know in regards to approaching and applying for a grant. It'll be unique to the grant maker. Sometimes they'll simply refer you to an online application. Sometimes they'll provide details of exactly what you need to do, what you need to submit. And then they will also provide additional details you need to know. In this case, they're letting you know when the board meets. It looks like there's various deadlines, notifications. And then there will also be a giving limitation section that will outline, their giving limitations. Unfortunately, we just upgraded our data system. And so that giving limitations section has not been transferred in a lot of profiles. We are working on that. So you might come see a profile that has giving limitations information and a profile that don't in this case, but that should be resolved in the coming weeks. But if we do have a notice of RFP, it's going to be listed here. Your filter again will be applied, so there's no RFPs related specifically to information and communications, but any notice of RFPs we do have are going to be listed here. And then you can just click that link and learn more about exactly what that funder is looking to fund. But yeah, so what you need to know in regards to approaching and applying can be indicated here. And then moving on, just some breakdown of their financials, access to the 990s, and the who's who section. So we've got, in this case, we've got staff members, officers, not the best example, but for many of these individuals, we've identified their LinkedIn profile. So it looks like we got just one of them, but if you see the LinkedIn icon, you can click it, get taken to their profile. A great way to reach out, connect, build that relationship. And then if they were mentioned in any news articles, any social media post, as well as research publications, we'll provide free access to those articles here. Otherwise, any contact information we do have for the organizations can be listed down below at the bottom of the profile. And so that's the Grantmaker profile. You can always email this to yourself or anyone else. You can also download as a PDF, which comes in handy. But yeah, going back to the search results, we provide access to recipient profiles. So a great strategy we recommend is, look up your peers, see who funds them, and use a list of their funders as your own prospects. Or you could always just look up your own recipient profile to review your past funders. Not sure why there's a lot of anonymous individuals here. Never seen this before, but basically this is a list of the recipients of information communication grants in Iowa. As you see, we've highlighted their Candid seal of transparency level. So if you are familiar with GuideStar, essentially it is comprehensive data set on nonprofits. So all the public information there on nonprofits we host and we provide on GuideStar. And then we have an updater program where we encourage nonprofits to submit information to us directly. So a lot of nonprofits, they provide us information. You can learn more at guidestar.org about the different requirements to get that seal of transparency. But we just like to highlight it just because a lot of funders, they want to fund transparent organizations. So do encourage nonprofits to get a seal, show their transparency, build awareness about your organization, your mission, the programs, how you evaluate your all of that. So if you're not familiar, please encourage you to check out GuideStar and then our seal of transparency program. But yeah, where was I? Going back to those recipients. So you can always, again, look up your peers or yourself or any other recipient. And this is the recipient or profile. We're going to highlight their seal level here, but it's going to be landing a visual and overview of breaking down what type of funders are providing the support, where are those funders located, and then the range of the grants they have received over the years. And then all those grants we have captured will be listed here in the grants section. Again, filter will be applied, but you'll have access to any grants we have captured for the recipient over the years. And then we'll basic breakdown of their funding interest, access to the 990s, and some contact information. And you can also email or export this recipient or profile with the tools above. And then the last area in the foundation directory is a grants list. So you can view a list of grants from a profile or from your search result. If you want to learn more about the grant, just click on one of the organization's name and you'll get the grant details window. So again, all the various different details about that grant you can review here. And you can also export the list of grants up to 100 entries per page with these tools at the top right. Email it, download it as a CSV or a PDF file. And that CSV file is going to include the grant details. So a quick way to pull up to 100 grants, get a quick skim understanding of what they're all about. As you can see here, we've got those grants listed along with the description and other details in the document. So that is the foundation directory. Before I open up to questions, I do want to just point out some helpful resources. If you're ever curious about where we source the data, how we source it, there's going to be a little link at the bottom of the page, data sources. But yeah, our main source is the 990s. And unfortunately, at this point, it's taking 3 years for the IRS to release them. So our other main source would be the philanthropic press. Anytime a grant award is announced in the news, we have a news scraping service that will capture that information and upload it. As I mentioned, we have nonprofits who submit data to us directly. And then we also have over 1,000 grant makers who provide their grant information to us directly as well. They are called e-grant reporters. You might see a symbol on their profile just indicating that they are self-reporting their grant information. So we have many of the large foundations are self-report. Otherwise, we skim websites, news releases, and we do have specific sources in regards to government funding and in countries. So if you're curious, you can always review it. And then there will also be a link to our philanthropy classification system through here as well. And then some other things I want to mention is Candid doesn't only provide data and information. We also provide helpful training and articles on nonprofit fundraising and management through our site, Candid Learning. So there's a link to it up at resources at the top, but this is where you'll just find articles, training. Most of the trainings we now provide for free. But yeah, topics range from starting a nonprofit, proposal writing, etc. So it's all free, or most of it is free. You can just register up at the top, and then Philanthropy News Digest, just our news portal, philanthropic news portal, and you can also sign up for RFPs if you do want to get notices of RFPs. You can register for free and get these RFP alerts as well. So those are some helpful resources. Patrons can always reach us on chat for search help. So while they're logged in, they should see a little chat button to the bottom right. If it's missing, in this case, it just means my colleague is busy with others users at the moment. So once we're available, that chat button will appear and we can help them with their search. And we are available from about 9:30 to 5 o'clock East Coast time. So otherwise, you can always reach us at customersuccess@candid.org. So happy to open it up to questions. And hopefully you found that helpful.
Thank you very much. I did not see questions come through the chat, so if anybody has something that they'd like to ask at this time, please put it in the chat. The only ones that we had were about making sure it was on the website and how to get the IP addresses in. So I think I got those addressed. Anybody else have anything, any questions? I agree, Stacy, it was a lot, and Jessica, a lot of really great information. And I guess I would say the same thing as I say with learning any of our new products, and that is just go in and play. Pretend you're a patron who wants to get food for their preschool program that they're running, and try search, see what happens. What do you get? What changes when you look at the filters a little bit differently? Pull up just to see what kind of things are out there for libraries. I saw Carver Foundation. I know a lot of you have gotten that before, so pull that up and see what you have for that. Oh, am I hearing somebody else?
I came off mute, Becky. Just for the sake of the recording, would you mind sharing a little bit, and I'm not looking at myself, would you mind sharing how folks can access, or how they can make sure that they have access either the path to the website or information about contacting their LRT, just so we can have that?
Yes, I can do that. Can I do that in case we want to show anything on Douglas's screen right now? Can we do any other questions first, and then when he stops sharing, I can share mine and show you how to get to it?
That sounds like a good plan.
All right, anybody have anything else about that? Let's see. Any other questions that Douglas can show you where things are on the website? All right, then I will go ahead and share. Let's see if I do this right. All right, so you should be seeing our state library website. If you hover over libraries and go to resources, we have a page called Online Resources and Tools for Libraries. When you click on that, you see all of the things that we at State Library provide for you. So if you scroll down a little bit, you will see Foundation Directory Online. When you click on the little blue box, it will take you to what I put in the chat earlier, and that is how to get access. The other thing that I'll point out here, this is an online database, and you can record that for your statistics for your annual survey. So in order to get that information of how many of your patrons are using this, maybe you want to do in-person workshop for the nonprofits in your community. Bring them into the library, show them how to use this resource, show them where the videos are that they can learn how to use it themselves. And you want to know, did that increase our usage? You can go down to the usage statistics. We get that information from FDO, And we put that up here so you can see how many people used it and what libraries they were from in March of 2023. Over to the right is this button right here. Like I said, most libraries that have plow sites, we actually went ahead and put the link on your website. So if you haven't noticed that before, most of you probably have a link on your website for it. If you click on it and it doesn't work, it's because you haven't done this piece where it says submit library IP address. That you just fill out that form, it goes to Tony, who then turns it into Candid, and they will get it set up so that you have access at that point. Anything else, Sam, that you want me to show? Oh, the other thing down here under resources, I think Douglas mentioned the videos that they have or the recordings that they have. If you click the FDO YouTube channel, you can see all of those. All right, now anything else? Sorry.
No, I didn't see any.
Okay.
I don't have anything else. We do have a question in the chat, and I'm not sure if that's for you or Douglas.
All right, I had to close my chat. Hang on. Douglas, you can answer that one. I don't know.
So yeah, pretty much it's only for those tax exempt entities. There are there is grant data related to social enterprises in the foundation directory, as well as what is the other B Corps, low profit limited liability corporations, and social enterprises. So if the business falls under that category, there could be potential for them. Otherwise, it's foundations. They really only want to provide grants to those tax exempt entities. So can I share my screen once more?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so just to do that search, it's under organization type. There's a category, recipient category, businesses. And yeah, you can specify B Corps, L3Cs, and social enterprises. So, but otherwise, yeah, it's for those tax exempt entities.
Any other thoughts or questions from you, Becky, as we wrap up here?
I don't think so. I do want to, well, two things, I guess. One is Michael Scott, state librarian, has said, yes, indeed, we are funding this for another year, so we know that it's out there. So don't be afraid to start promoting this product. Related to that then is do those one-on-one when somebody comes in and is asking about things, or as you're out working with the nonprofits in your community, you're doing something for the JCs and you're doing a presentation about the library, make sure to promote this product and make sure that everybody understands how to use it and what it's for, because they do need to come into the library to use it, as we said before. But it's a perfect opportunity for you guys to help the folks in your town find out what's out there and get some of those grants.
Absolutely. Well, if there are no other questions, we will conclude here today. And my thanks to Douglas very much for his time this morning. There's a question about ready-made marketing material that is coming from Candid, as I understand it. So keep an eye out for that, and we will try to promote that as we can. We did not have any slides for this one to answer John's question, but please do get your hands dirty in Foundation Directory, start playing around with it. Becky will be doing a much longer version of her talk next week as we're recording this. So that's on May 2. So I don't think we need to distribute Becky's slides for this little brief intro that she did, but do make plans to come on May 2 to hear a little bit more about that part of the process. So watch for those marketing materials. To get a hold of the Candid team, you can email customersuccess@candid.org. You can also touch base with your library resource technician, and they'll be sure to help you as well. So thank you, Douglas. Thank you, Becky. And thanks everyone for attending today. Bye-bye.